Hey everyone, welcome back to She Bird Podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Wright, and today's guest is Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me. I love spreading this message and sharing it.
So, can you tell our listeners what inspired you to write Stop Hating Dating and Start Being You?
Oh, I was struggling in the dating world myself, and I kept getting given this advice to just be yourself. And that advice was so frustrating to me because I said, if it's that simple, surely we'd all be doing that. So I thought I'd write my perspective on how I ended up shifting my self-worth in order to just be myself, because there's a lot that went on behind the scenes. And I really wanted to share that message and help other women who feel like I felt.
Oh, okay. I just purchased it on Kindle. It was a good price. I purchased it on Kindle.
Can you tell me what you think? I can't wait to hear what other people think, because this is just my first book, so I can't wait to, make better and better versions each time.
Yeah, definitely. So, what does the title mean to you personally?
I wanted it to be really actionable for people. So Stop Hating Dating, Start Being You gives someone like a really clear action that they can take in their dating life. And I didn't want it to be about stop hating dating, start loving you, or stop hating dating, start finding love. I wanted it to really be about what you do for you. And then if you end up finding love off the back of that, that's an extra bonus. But the real prize in this work is being your true self. So that's why I did it this way. I nearly made the book Just Be Yourself and Other Shitty Dating Advice, but I didn't want it to look like all the other shitty dating advice. So that's why I've gone with the before and after.
Oh, okay. I like that. So why is it important to center this book around self-worth rather than dating strategies?
Really important question. I think a lot of the time the dating advice that we give to people is from people who are not having the same issues as that person. And in particular, my issue with dating was my self-worth. And all of the other advice that you get about dating is kind of layers above that. So like I said before, the just be yourself trope is the perfect advice. It is right. But it doesn't mean you're going to do that unless you're able to do the work and shift what you need to shift behind the scenes. So I really think shifting your self-worth is the enabler to enable you to just be yourself in dating and then attract people who are best suited to you.
Yeah, because I look forward to reading this book because with me with dating, it is terrible. I keep attracting the worst men that you can ever think of, like the men that just spent like 9 years in prison, or the men that's been married like 5 times, or I'm like, what the heck? Why do I keep attracting these men? I just don't get it.
I feel you. I really love to hear what you have to say about this book. And if you get any takeaways from it, please share with me, because this definitely is a book about my journey. But I feel like there's so many penny drop moments in here that just totally shift how I looked at the situation. So I really hope it's able to help other people as well. So please share your feedback with me.
Yeah, I definitely will. So how much of your personal story is woven into the book?
An uncomfortable amount. I ended up sharing so many vulnerable stories in the book because I really wanted to connect with the reader, and I want the reader to know that I'm not just barking advice at you. Like, I am in the trenches with you, and I have felt how you feel. And I wanted to be really authentic and genuine, because that's a part of what I value as well, right, is authenticity. And I think that's how you can best connect with people, which is, a core part of how this improves your dating life. But sharing these stories means you really get to know who I am and who I was being. And hopefully you'll see the benefits on the other side of it, because you'll see some of the shitty situations I put myself in. And it's so much easier sometimes to say, oh my God, why would you do that? Why would you allow that, when it's someone else? So hearing me talk about these things, you can kind of look at me as if I were you and say, yeah, why do we let ourselves do these things? Sharing these real stories means that you can give me the advice as well when I'm in these stories.
Oh, Okay. So did writing the book feel healing or triggering at times?
Definitely both. I know towards the end of the book, I had to take about a month off before I could finish the book because I was about to write the chapter on landing into a relationship and having boundaries. And I'm recently in a relationship, so I'm still learning a lot of those skills, right? So I did have to take a month and go, where do I sit with all of this? Like, what are my beliefs in this space? And where do I still need to challenge those beliefs? The other parts were definitely healing because a big part of why I wanted to write a book and why I've always wanted to write is because I want to feel heard. I want to feel seen. I want to feel like expressing myself. So writing this book, I definitely did all of those things. So it definitely had a healing component for me.
Mm-hmm. So who did you write this book for? Like people like me?
100%. So, I mean, for past me as well, but I have some girlfriends in my life who I love and adore, and I just want to shake them and go, stop letting yourself be treated like shit. And I was doing that as well. So I wrote the book because I wanted people who felt like I felt to feel what I feel now, which is this liberation that it is okay to be myself and it's not a bad thing. That's who I wrote it for.
Oh, okay. I like that. So what do you hope readers walk away with after finishing it?
To know that you being yourself is enough, and to know that you define your self-worth, because quite often we want to be what other people need from us, but we can't be what every other person wants and needs from us. So out of all of the people in the world, who do you want to impress?
Yeah.
And I believe you should impress yourself.
Yeah, I like that answer. So can you share a favorite I'm not about to pronounce that word right. A quote from your book?
There's a section in my book where I dive into uh, the uncomfortability about doing things differently than you normally would. So there's a famous quote from Julian Blanc. He says, your comfort zone isn't always comfortable, it's familiar, it's what you know. And I think that's something that we need to remember with our dating scenarios. We keep doing the same things, not because it's comfortable, not because we're getting the outcomes that we want, but because it's familiar, it's what we know. And once we realize that we're only keeping on doing it because it's what we know and not because it's what we like, then we can actually shift what we're doing.
I like that because I'm seeing a pattern of the dating of the guys I'm dating. I'm like, wait a minute.
What am I doing and why am I doing it?
Yeah. So it's not them, it's me. Like it is me. I'm not saying it's them, but it is me that's like giving them a chance when I know I can do way better. I'm just like, okay, okay,
You've hit
I
the
see.
money. You've hit the money. That's it.
So, what are some of the most common beliefs women hold about dating that you challenge in the book?
Oh, I had a really big issue with being in my feminine, and it's a hot topic at the moment, feminine energy and all of that. And a big topic that I talk about in the book is leaning into your feminine, because if you're into spirituality, you'll see it as yin and yang. If you're into science, you'll see it as polarity. Um, you need two halves of things to come together. And quite often when we're showing up, being strong, being capable, taking care of things, making the dinner reservations, organizing where we're going, being really organized and taking the lead, that actually is putting the men that we're meeting into a different position, that they're not able to be in their masculine. And if you think about it, all of the hot, sexy men that we would pine after in books and movies are in their masculine, right? So the big trope that I'm trying to challenge is showing up in your feminine being a positive thing to allow men to show up in their masculine. And it can sometimes feel as though showing up in your feminine is weak or less than or needy, but it's not any of those things. It's actually showing up in a way that allows men to bring their strengths to the table, and you're actually giving them an opportunity to show up how they want to show up.
I like that. So, why do you think so many women feel like they have to change who they are to be loved?
Well, you touched on it before. You said, I'm the one that is allowing these men in my life.
Mhm.
If you think that the common denominator in these situations is you, right? Because it keeps happening to you, you're the common denominator, then you can quickly draw the link to, well, like, there must be something wrong with me, right? Because I'm the common denominator. And it's not that you need to change who you are, it's that you need to change who you're being when you're showing up. And if you don't realize that, if you don't realize you need to change what you're allowing, you need to change how you're showing up to dates, then you're going to think that it's about you and who you are. It's not about who you are, it's about who you're being.
Yeah, I agree. So, how do you define audacity in the context of dating?
I love this word, audacity. I actually got into an argument with my now partner about this when we started dating, because he wanted to, well, he talks about it almost every day, that he's going to summit Mount Everest. And I said to him, you have the audacity to just go around saying that? And he's like, yeah. And he sees it as a positive thing. And this shift that I've had while writing the book, I've realized that one of the concepts that I couldn't quite put my words around, that I now have been able to, is sometimes you look at audacity as being bold enough to be yourself and be bold enough to assume that you're enough. And you can see that as, oh, I don't want to be too audacious. I don't want to be that bold. But
Yeah.
when you instead show up bold enough to assume how people want you to be, if you're assuming that people aren't going to like the version of you that you really are, that's actually audacious. Like, you don't have the right to go around assuming what people are going to like and dislike about you. It's very audacious of you to show up and say, oh, I need to be this way because they're not going to like who I really am. How dare you decide on behalf of other people what they're going to like? And
Yeah.
that's where I'm shifting the audacity to, it can be a positive and it can be a negative, but the boldness, you need to be bold about being you, not bold about deciding what other people will like about you.
Yeah. I agree. Now that you are saying that, I agree, because I was one of those people that was like, oh, they're not going to like me. Like, assuming, making assumptions, like going out on dates. And that's probably why I was giving off that like negative vibe and that negative aura. That's probably why it was coming back to me. I don't know. It could be.
That you have so much more control than you realize in how you show up. It impacts other people, and that's a big part that I talk about in the book, is the psychology and um, physiology of our minds and bodies, and how we actually impact each other without knowing it, through body language, through verbal cues. And you have so much impact on how that other person perceives you, just in how you're showing up.
Yeah. So, what are some signs that someone is disconnected from their self worth?
If you are going around caring more about what other people think of you than what you think of you, or you're going around caring about what other people think of you more than caring about being you,
Mhm.
then you're not attached to who it truly is to be you. You're not attached to the value of being you and the positives of being you. If you can't see the benefits to your crazy, the benefits to your whack, then you aren't going to be that, because you're caring more about what other people think than you care about being that, being yourself.
Hmm. Okay. So, how do past relationships influence the way we show up in dating?
Past relationships.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and this is another piece that I dive into with the research. When we've experienced trauma in past relationships, and that doesn't just mean, a traumatic romantic relationship, that can also be your caregivers in your early life, you will associate connection and safety differently than someone who hasn't had those traumas. We are always looking to be safe, and quite often safety means being loved. And sometimes we connect being a certain way with being loved, and we think if we're a different way to that way we had to be in order to be safe and loved, then we're unlovable. As an example, if you were in early life often neglected or or ignored if you're being loud or you're expressing yourself, or you're put down for expressing yourself, then you're going to feel like you need to not express yourself in order to be loved. So there are all of these unconscious beliefs and impacts from our past that we're not going to be aware of because we're not in our unconscious mind consciously. It's the opposite. So and unless you're seeing those things, you're really unable to shift them. They're natural, they're protective mechanisms, they're there for a reason, but they are stopping you from getting the outcomes that you want.
Yeah, that's true. So, how does trauma play a role in dating behaviors?
Mm, mm. So with past relationships, if you are experiencing trauma in those past relationships, and again, the trauma doesn't necessarily need to be physical trauma or something really serious. It can just be how an outcome played out in the past. You'll end up collecting evidence of that outcome. So if I act this way, I'll get this outcome. In order to get the outcome I want, I need to act a different way. And that is a cycle that you believe based on evidence because it's examples from the past. It doesn't mean that that's accurate in every scenario, but it's something that your mind will draw conclusions to and then keep you in that loop.
Hmm, okay. So, you mentioned psychological research. What studies or insights really stood out to you?
I was mind blown by the impact of body language on communication. Over 70% of our communication is non-verbal. So when I say non-verbal, I mean not about the words you're saying. It could be more about the tonality of how you're saying it, the volume, the way you're projecting your voice. So there's a very big difference from, oh yeah, I'm really excited to see you, like I've been waiting all week, to I'm really excited to see you, I've been waiting all week. That's very different, right? It's about your
Yes.
tonality. And it makes sense when you think about it, right? Have you ever not trusted someone to drive you in their car when they're getting in the car and they're a bit shaky and they're like, oh, don't mind my driving, it,
Yeah.
it, it does. It makes sense when you think about it. So body language was a huge one for me, but also the impacts of the chemical reactions in your brain. So how does dopamine play out in your dating world? How does oxytocin play out in your sex life? And all of these biological responses that are inbuilt into our bodies and how much that's impacting what we're doing. So if you're calling your awareness to these things and you can see them, you can go, oh, now that I'm aware of that, I can, do things a bit differently here, or make sure I take note of this. Then you're going to have more tools and you're better equipped when you're in dating scenarios to, I don't want to say be more in control of how you're showing up, but showing up in a way that works for you, not in a way that your body's just naturally doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what does being you really mean when the world is telling you to adapt or perform?
Mm. There's so many different subgroups of people that we need to participate with throughout our day. I mean, in the morning, you might go to your gym class, then you're at work, then you're at a friend's event, then you're with the family. Sometimes we end up being 5 different versions of ourselves to please those 5 different groups of people. And in some ways, it is somewhat necessary. I mean, in a work environment, you might need to act a bit differently. But with your personal relationships and particularly your romantic relationships, you want to feel expressed. You want to feel like you're showing up as the person that you truly want to be and being seen as that person and being loved as that person. So to show up as being you means doing things because you want to do them and not because you're doing them because of the people you're surrounded by. You want to feel aligned with what Sarah or what Brooke wants to do as an individual rather than what is this group around me expecting of me at this time. And if you're aligned with you, then you can show up in a way that you are able to feel loved as you in a romantic relationship instead of trying to mold yourself into all of these different ways of being based on who you're being around.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. So, why do you believe self worth is the missing piece in so many dating struggles?
It's that layer below all of the common dating tropes. When we say just be yourself or just focus on you or be the person that you want to attract, that's all contingent on you feeling enough as you. It's all well and good for someone to say to me like, oh, just be yourself, Sarah. It'll be fine. You'll attract people based on who you are. If someone told me that and I didn't think I was lovable, I'm just going to go, you're an idiot. Like, you need to actually believe that you are lovable as you are, or you won't be able to do all of those things. So all of this dating advice that we are given, it's true, but it doesn't actually address the reason why we aren't doing it.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's one dating experience that shaped your belief system the most?
Oh, that's a really good one. Uh, I'd go through so many in the book. It's crazy how many vulnerable stories that I share. I want to say there's a critical moment that happened on my 31st birthday where I had 12 or so of my friends fly out from Sydney to come and celebrate my birthday. And I was
Oh,
dating someone at the time who, in hindsight, didn't actually like who I was.
oh,
He didn't actually really know who I was because I was, shaping myself into this version of myself that I thought he would like.
mhm.
And when I started to get signs from him that I wasn't showing up in a way that he would expect, being really rowdy, being really active, jumping around, it was my birthday party. I was getting these signs from him that I shouldn't be that way. But I was getting all of these signs from my friends that that was absolutely perfect. And I think having that combination of that relationship and those friends, those really long-term friends who know me for who I am and love me for who I am, having those two show up at the same time really made me go, oh my God, what have I been doing? I'm trying to impress this person when I'm already impressing all of these people as I am, and I'm trying to contort myself in all of these ways to impress this person. And I think that is what really started this whole shift for me. And I have to see it as a positive now.
So, is he the person you tried to fix yourself for love?
One of many, one of many.
One of many.
He's probably the person that I was with when I first realized that I didn't need to do that anymore. Yeah.
Hmm. So, what's the worst dating advice you've ever received?
Oh, I once had a friend tell me, Sarah, you need to sort this out. You're going to lose him. If you keep acting this way, you're going to lose him. You need to sort this out. And I think at the time I was hormonal, I was emotional, something had gone on that I didn't feel supported about. And I reached out to my friend and said, he didn't show up for me in this way. I'm really upset about it. And the advice was, you need to sort this out or you'll lose him. Because the focus was on maintaining the relationship rather than my actual well-being. And we do this to ourselves so often because it goes back to the trauma, it goes back to the safety, it goes back to our past relationships. If you feel like losing this relationship or losing a relationship is going to impact your safety, then you are going to put it above your own well-being. Because in the short term, you would need to do that. I mean, if a house was burning down, you're not going to worry about your feelings. You're going to worry about getting out of the house, right? The same goes for if you've got a relationship that um, you attach relationships to your safety. So in the past, you might have attached relationships to having somewhere to live, having someone to provide for you. And this is why your relationship past with your parents is so important. If you associate relationships with those things, then of course you're going to put your relationships above your own well-being because you want to maintain your survival. Mm.
Okay, okay. Did you ever tell your friend that that was horrible advice?
Oh yeah, we talked about it. And I mean, I think at the time I probably was relying on other people to make decisions for me more than myself. So I really shouldn't have even asked her that question. I should have, turned inward and thought, how do I feel about how this is playing out? And not try and externalize my decision making about a relationship to someone else because I'm the only one that's going to know whether or not it's going to work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So, what's the best advice you wish more women would hear?
Definitely that. I mean, the common trope is always focus on you first, put you first, and do the work first.
Mhm.
That is the common advice for women in dating, or for anyone in dating. But I think if women can see, or anyone can see, that your self-worth is self-defined, that really makes that shift in how you're showing up.
Mhm.
I really hope that my book gives more people that message.
Yeah, definitely. So, what would you say to women who are afraid they'll be alone forever if they stop people pleasing? That's me, a people pleaser.
That's a valid fear. No, I get you. We are putting relationships on a pedestal,
Mhm.
and if you're so worried about being alone, you're really, you're acting as though being not alone or being in a relationship is going to solve all of your problems. And that's really not, because if you look back at some of your past relationships, you'll know that you have been in relationships and been unhappy. So you already know that your problems aren't going to be solved by being in a relationship.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
take the relationship off the pedestal, then you can start to see, the worth of a relationship, and the worth of being comfortable in who you are, and how that's actually much more valuable to your happiness than being in a relationship. You don't want to be in a relationship at the cost of being who you are. And being who you are will actually mean the type of relationship you get is actually much better.
Yeah, definitely. So, what was the hardest chapter to write in your book?
Oh, I think the relationships chapter was confronting for me, because I don't believe that I could give a lot of advice on relationships yet, because I'm newly in a relationship that I feel is going well. Uh, so I made sure to keep that one conceptual and more about you than about the relationship. So that one was a bit tricky to write, because I did have to kind of frame what kind of advice do I want to be giving here. I didn't want it to be a relationships book. I wanted it to be a book about dating. So I had to kind of draw some parameters there and put a box around it. Um, but yeah, I'd say that one was probably the hardest. It was also because it was at the end of writing 10 chapters.
Uh-huh.
I just so desperately wanted to get this message out that I thought, oh my gosh, when will this be done?
So have you got any feedback? I mean, what feedback have you gotten so far from early readers?
I was fortunate enough to have almost, I think it was 8 or 10 of my friends read a different chapter each. So I think all up, they probably got 3 chapters each to read, just so I could spread around the workload around my friends. And I mean, some of my friends said, are you sure you want to be sharing this with the world? Because this is hilarious, but far out, like, do you want to be sharing this? And I said, absolutely. Like, that's part of my expression. And I actually enjoy that part of it. But also, I mean, my editor of my book, who works for the publishing company, said she actually learned some great things that she thinks are going to help her marriage. And the research, I think a lot of my girlfriends went, oh, wow, this makes a lot more sense now that we see the research. We can put together the craziness that we've been doing and experiencing and copying from men with the science, and it makes a lot more sense. And then you feel more empowered because you've got that knowledge. So I think putting those two pieces together was a big game changer for the chapters.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, what would you say to someone who feels completely defeated by dating?
Oh, I feel you. I would say I feel you. And that's why, again, with the title of the book, Stop Hating Dating, Start Being You, I'm not trying to tell you more about specific advice and you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. I really wanted people to turn inward and trust themselves again, because we get so much advice externally that we do actually deprioritize how we're feeling.
Mhm.
So I would really like people to hear and take away that this is about your journey with yourself. And I I completely understand why you're in pain right now. That I've actually got a whole chapter 2, which is just on, is the dating world fucked or is it me? And it's an explanation of why it isn't just you. Like, it is a bit fucked. And I want people to hear that I'm with you, I hear you, I understand, and I'm not gonna smack you over the head with more, you know, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, because you're all tired, and I can understand why. There's a lot of confusing information. I mean, just the feminine masculine stuff on its own. There's a lot, and the only way to navigate it in a way that works for you is to turn inward and focus on you.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you think healing your relationship with yourself changes the kind of partner you attract?
That is such a clear statement. Yes. The way you just said that, yes. I'll give you this example. So I said it before about my partner with Audacity. I used to push people away who were really confident, because I'm like, how dare you be so confident? Like, be humble, you know, like, sit down. Um, and so I ended up pushing away people who were confident because I didn't feel confident myself. And I'm like, how dare you have confidence? And I would almost uh, get the ick, I guess people call it that, get the ick by people who are really confident. I'm like, oh, get over yourself.
Yeah,
And
like you think it's cocky or like egotistical instead of like confident.
yeah, when quite often they're just doing them and being
Yeah.
confident and knowing what they want. And as soon as you address those things within yourself that you're judging yourself for, or you're uncomfortable with yourself, then you can open the door to all of these men that you've been pushing away who aren't bad people. They're just not following these metrics you've come up with in your mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I agree. So, what's your hope for the future of the dating culture?
Or, I mean, with AI and all of the things that are changing, that I really think that we're going to be flooded with so much information that's artificially created. There's going to be a lot of, you know, fakeness around. And I actually think and hope that there will be a revival of being authentic and being real. Like, it'll actually be praised and positive to be imperfect and real, because it's actually real. Like, I don't know if you've ever chatted to a chatbot when you're trying to get customer service,
Yeah.
and you know, so pleasant, every answer is perfect, but doesn't actually help. You're like, you're not understanding what I'm saying. You're not connecting with me. And I feel like that is going to happen in the dating world. Well, I really hope, and it might take a couple of years, right? But I think we're actually going to have a renewed appreciation for being imperfect and being real.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, if you could hand this book to your younger self, what age would she be?
Uh, I mean, that is a good question, because this can be, I mean, the more you dive into this stuff, the more you put together the pieces of the things that impacted you in the past. I mean, I would probably say like 14, because that's
Okay.
probably when I started to judge my body as much as I did. That's probably when I started to question my worth based on how much attention I was or wasn't getting from boys at school, and comparing myself to other girls. And
Yeah.
I think that's the age, you know, when you start, we call it high school, when you start secondary school,
Yep.
that's when you start to kind of have these feelings and thoughts about yourself. And I mean, we don't always see how those things impact us until years later, but they do. They 100% do.
They do a lot, a lot. I would give myself, since I didn't start dating until I was 19, I would say I would hand this book to my 19-year-old self, and I wouldn't have dated so soon.
Good.
Definitely. So what's next for you after this launch?
So I'm launching the book in a couple of weeks, and I'm trying to concentrate my efforts to sharing the message with as many people as I can. And it's not really just about sharing it with people who need the message. It's sharing it with people who can spread the message for me, because we all have girlfriends in our lives who have these feelings, who we just want to shake them and go, you are lovable. And I feel like this is a toolkit to get them there. So it really is about sharing the message. And then I'm still on my own journey around my self-worth as well. So I am already starting to toy with ideas on the second book. I'm going to give myself probably 2-3 years before I write that one, because I've still got some inner work on my own to do. But it might not be about dating. It might just be about self-worth more broadly.
Yeah, definitely. So if readers remember one message from this book, what should it be?
Oh, uh, this is kind of a popular quote from Oprah, which is you teach people how to treat you. And I think that carries over so much into dating, because you actually have so much more control over your dating outcomes than you realize. You just haven't been giving yourself that power. You've been taking away your own power by externalizing onto other people. So you have so much more power in your dating outcomes than you're giving yourself credit for.
Yeah, definitely. So my last and final question before I let you go is, where all can my listeners find your books? I know one is Amazon. Where else?
Yeah. So it's also on Booktopia. I don't have it in any bookshops at the moment, but if you want to go to a bookshop and request a physical copy, they can order it in for you. But Amazon is where I'm focusing my sales efforts at the moment. You can definitely find it on Goodreads and Booktopia as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on my podcast and chatting with me about your book.
Thank you so much for having me. I really hope we can spread this message.
Yeah, definitely. You have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Hey everyone, I want to thank you all so much for listening to my interview with Sarah. As she said, you can purchase the book on Amazon mostly, and I just purchased it on Kindle. So definitely go check that out. And excuse me. Thank you all so much for listening, and see you next time for the next interview. Bye.